Hey guys, Taft Artington here. This video we're going to talk about priest races, and then we are also going to talk about spec. So I compared all the base stats to what they are now, and the only change was that Blizzard changed spirit from 25 to 24. Okay, so that's the only change. And when we talk about stats for priest, your biggest stat is going to be int, even though for most classes, the biggest stat in PvP, in general is going to be stamina. But I would say int is by far the most important stat for priest in PvP. Um, but also, having like a healthy serving of stam is also important. But if we go off of just base stats, if we're deciding on an alliance priest, we're looking at intellect as number one. We're looking at stam number two. Spirit is nice, but it's not that big of a factor. And agility is, like spirit, nice, but even less of a factor. What you get out of agility is going to be dodge, a little bit of dodge, a little bit of armor, and a little bit of range attack power for your wand. So not getting all that much. You're getting nothing from strength. Um, but spirit, you're getting that out of combat regen. Intellect, you're obviously getting mana, and stamina, you're obviously getting health. So if we were to look at human, we see they have stamina 20, intellect 22. Dwarf, stamina 23, intellect 21. Night elf, stamina 19, intellect 22. So we'll see dwarf has the highest stam. Night elf has the least. But dwarf has the most stam by a considerable amount. It also has the lowest int, is at 21, human int 22, night elf int 22 as well. So I were to say, if we go off solely from base stats, dwarf easily takes the cake there, even though, like I said, intellect is your number one stat. However, that proportion difference between 20 to 23 or 19 to 23 versus the difference in intellect from 22 to 21 or 22 to 21, I'm going to say that stamina is bigger. It is more advantageous to take that stamina over the intellect. But that's just the base stats. Let's take a look at Horde. Undead, stamina 21, intellect 20. Troll, stamina 21, the same, intellect 18. So there, it's pretty obvious Undead's going to take the cake whenever it comes to base stats. So let's look at their actual racials. Human has Perception, Sword, Spash, Mace, Specialization, the Human Spirit, Diplomacy, Desperate Prayer. Perception's massive. This allows you dramatically increases stealth detection for 20 seconds. It's very, very big. Your nemesis is going to be rogue, and being able to catch them out of stealth, being able to see them before they sap you, that's just, that perception's really big. And I can tell you, Horde rogues hate it. They absolutely hate it. So perception is going to be really big. Sword specialization doesn't do anything. Mace specialization doesn't do anything. The human spirit, increase spirit by 5%. That's really nice. But it's not that big. Like, it's nice, but it's not that big. Diplomacy, kind of the same thing. Increased reputation gains by 10%. I mean, it's actually pretty nice. It's gonna help you get your Warsong gear faster. It's gonna help you get your Furbog pouch faster. But that's really it. It's nice, but it's not gonna help you at all in PvP. It's just gonna help you get rep faster. And then Desperate Prayer instantly heals the caster for 134 to 171. That's really nice. However, you can only heal yourself with it, so do keep that in mind. I would think that it's that priest specific spell, you see humans have Desperate Prayer, Night Elves have Star Shards, Undead Touch of Weakness, Troll Hex of Weakness, and Dwarf unfortunately don't get theirs until level 20. And I would say between these, I think Hex of Weakness and Desperate Prayer are probably the two strongest. Desperate Prayer is easily the strongest spell on Alliance, the priest specific class spell. Desperate Prayer is probably the strongest. So Perception and Desperate Prayer, human definitely has that going for it. If we look at Dwarf, Stone Form, while active, grants immunity to bleed, poison, and disease effects. Also increases armor by 10% in it lasts 8 seconds. So this is really big. Um, if you have a bleed or a poison on you and you need to get away and get a bandage off, uh, this is going to help you do that. Um, so I mean, it's big for that. There are, rogues don't have poisons at 19, so it's not that big of a consideration. I know it's a very big consideration from level 20 and up, being able to get away from a rogue easily, um, due to the removal of poison. But at 19 they don't have it. There's just a couple different poisons from hunters, um, and I know like Venom Hide they've nerfed it. I don't know why they would nerf it. It used to be like a 9-hour buff, a poison on a weapon, and they've removed it now. It's like a 5 or 10 minute buff, so it's basically pointless now. So that's completely gone. Um, and bleed, I mean, what? That's just from Warrior with Rend. And the only other poison would be from like the Venom Strike maze. So not that many things to remove with Stone Force. I guess the extra 10% armor is nice, but it's not that big because you're playing a Clothy as priest. A Find Treasure, pointless. Gun Specialization, pointless. Frost Resistance is nice. Extra 10 to Frost Resist is nice, I guess. But the thing is, you could dispel it. Because, like, who's doing frost damage? A mage. And nobody's killing anyone as a frost mage at 19. A frost mage is just pure crowd control. So it's nice to be able to resist. Like, partial resist aren't going to help you any at 19 because the slow effect will still be applied. And like I said, nobody's killing anyone as a frost mage. You got to be a fire mage at 19 to actually kill anyone. Most mages just end up, rank 1 Pauling, rank 1 Frost Novas, and rank 1 Frost Bolts. And you can just dispel the effect. But it is nice to have a little bit. So I would say, based on just between human and dwarf racials, human easily has the better racials, especially since dwarf Sphere Ward they don't get until level 20. Um, and like Frost Resist is like that's kind of nice. Stone Form, same thing, like it's kind of nice, but it's really not going to get you much. I mean, just overall dwarf racials are very weak in comparison to human. Like Perception's huge, Spirit's really nice, and Desperate Prayer is arguably the most powerful of the priest racials, class specific racials. Um, so let's look at Night Elf. Shadow Meld allows you to slip into the shadows. This is a very weak form of stealth. It's kind of nice again, but not that great really. Um, Quickness, 1% dodge, is nice, but not that game changing. Wisp, transform Wisp into or transforms you upon death, increase speed by 50%. So there is actually a use for this, and that is when you die, and you're trying to get like a good position, you and this is assuming that they don't take your insignia. So you can die, and if you want to res on top or like in the enemy base, that's where your body is. you can run out of the graveyard, don't take the res, run to your body, and then res in there. And this is so that you don't have to like get into the base again. So it's actually kind of useful to be able to have your body in there like dead in their base, run in with the wisp movement speed, and then res and then instantly shadow meld, and it does have that appeal to it. So those shadow meld and wisp spirit do have they couple quite nicely for those purposes. But it's also a really sort of niche kind of play. It that's not a normal play, is what I guess what I'm trying to say. Um, Nature resist by 10. You know, you take what you can. But not much nature going on at 19. Like I said, like just hunter poison, um, roots obviously from a druid. But the thing is, like assist druids aren't really a thing either. Like an alliance assist druid is definitely a thing, but a horde assist druid is really rare. So I don't think you're really getting much. You're definitely getting less. Let's put it that way. Between frost and nature, like you're definitely going to get more benefit from that frost resistance and that nature resistance. And then star shards, rain star shards down on the enemy, causing 162 arcane damage over 6 seconds. I mean, that's a decent amount of damage, but it is a dot. So, and I guess you could look at it like if you wanted to go, if you're going to play Alliance and you wanted to play a Wand Priest, I would go Night Elf because they've got crazy agility compared to the others. And they've also got that extra star shards for extra damage. So if you want to play, like a hard assist priest, I could see playing Night Elf, like a much more offensive type of priest. I could definitely see Night Elf would be the way to go. Um, but if you wanted to play just overall general purpose priest, I would suggest human. Now, there is one thing, and this depends if Blizzard decides to change the map or not. But if they keep the map the same, dwarf female and human female will be able to slip through the alliance fence. I don't believe dwarf male can. I know for a fact male human can't, and I know for a fact that night elf, both male and female, cannot. And it's a pretty big thing when you can slip through the fence and everyone else has to walk around because they didn't choose the correct race and sex. Um, so dwarf female or human female. I would only go night elf if you only wanted to play a wand priest, and even then I would say it's not that big. If I were to make a priest, I would go human female. The perception is massive. The spirit's really nice. The diplomacy's really nice, and the desperate prayer is pretty big. And I would never really want to go play like just a pure wand priest, and I feel like the being able to slip through the fence is huge. Um, so yeah, although I do know like some people really value that stam on dwarf, and so that's what they go. Some of the best players I know on Alliance will play dwarf female. So definitely, play what you want to play, but I personally prefer female human when playing priest. So for horde, if we look, so we already established undead is having the superior base stat build. But then, and I personally, when I play horde priest, I always go female undead. So for the slipping through alliance fence, female undead is the only one of the priest who can do it. The only other character model that can go through the alliance fence on Horde is an orc female. Orc female or undead female. Those are the only two models that can fit. So I almost exclusively play to those two. Um, but right, troll can't fit. Male undead can't fit. Tarn can't fit. A male orc can't fit. So just undead female and orc female. So Will the Forsaken, this is immunity to charm, fear, and sleep. The only sleep in the bracket is magic dust. Um, so it is nice for that. And some people like to go hard and they'll use magic dust. So you can get rid of that, but you're going to be using Will the Forsaken pretty much on cooldown for the fear, because fears are all the time in 19 BGs. There's so many fears. So Will the Forsaken is really big. I just love Will the Forsaken. Um, Cannibalize. This is basically when it's better than food, that's for sure. Um, but if you're and your bandage is on cooldown, or you don't want to use a bandage, or you don't want to use your mana, Cannibalize is great, and it's better than food. It's also, I love it for kind of the RP aspects where after you kill someone, you eat their corpse is just is kind of fun, you know. 10 shadow resist, big, very big. So shadow damage is like the number one magical school that deals damage at 19. So that 10 base shadow damage, and you're already getting, a lot of shadow resistance, like from the wand. Where else? You're also getting it from the cape enchant, assuming you went the correct cape enchant. So you can stack quite a bit of shadow resist as a 19 priest, and it just works couples really well, with this shadow resist from the passive. Underwater breathing doesn't really matter unless you go for world PvP in Red Ridge. It's kind of nice with the big lake. You can go under there and pretty much outlast anyone else. And then we get to their class racial, just touch of weakness. Next melee attack against the caster will cause 8 shadow damage and reduce the damage caused by the attacker by 2 for 2 minutes. Not that big. It's really not that great, but you know, I don't know what to say. It's really not that great. The Will the Forsaken, like that's the big one. Will the Forsaken, Shadow Resistance, those two are big. But Touch of Weakness, nah. The Troll, Berserking, increases your attack speed by 10% for I believe it's supposed to say 10 seconds. Um, at full health, it's at 10%, and then it goes, I believe it should be up to 30% if you're badly hurt. Although that doesn't say it. Regeneration increases your health regeneration by 10%, and continues in combat. Or it allows 10% of your health regeneration to continue in combat. That's kind of nice. Beast Slaying, I guess if you want to kill hunter pets, which you will be doing as a priest. Bow Specialization doesn't matter. Throwing Specialization doesn't matter. Hex of Weakness, actually kind of big. This is the only sort of form of Mortal Strike, if you will, at 19. This is weakens your target enemy, reducing the damage caused by 2, and reducing the effectiveness of any healing by 20% in the last 2 minutes. This is pretty big, so if you're playing like the offensive priest, um, and you're trying to kill, a flag carrier, or just you're calling a kill target, Hex of Weakness is really big. Reduces healing effectiveness by 20%. So, I mean, that's actually pretty big. The Berserking is nice, but it's kind of like, it's not like in PvE where you can hit this and make it worth. Because in PvP, you're still going to have to consume a global. And it's almost like, do you really want to waste that second to save yourself, like less than a second on the heal. So it's like it doesn't really, for healing, berserking doesn't really make much sense because you're already having. I mean, I guess if you're going to be doing multiple heals in a row, it would make sense. I would say probably after 2 or 3 full heals in a row, will it actually make sense to use berserking? But if you're just trying to get like one quick heal, like if you're trying to save somebody, you're not using zerking because you're gonna have to eat a 1 second global just to use the thing. And to save, if you're at full health, it's only 10% off your cast. So it's it's much bigger, I guess, if you consider it for like wanding. It's much bigger, but yeah. So pretty much, I guess you could say there's like sort of two type. Like if you're doing the offensive priest, like the offensive wanding priest for Horde, troll is really big. Would be the better one for that. But if you're doing general purpose priest on Horde, I would say undead. And then for alliance, the offensive wanding priest would be a night elf, and like the general purpose would be either human or dwarf. But you can still do wanding on undead, and it still be big. But troll will be better for like an offensive play, mainly because of the hex of weakness and the added agility, and pretty much the same reason for night elf is the added agility and star shards. So let's get into the specs, so we can kind of look at this. We'll look at the different specs. So I kept saying wand priest, and we don't have. All right, how should we talk about this? There's basically 3 main specs, and obviously you can make however many specs you want. This first spec is what I would suggest everyone go um, at the start. And then there's 2 other. Let's get down here. And then I've got 2 other sort of variants. But you can see what's common across all 3. Why is that not? Across all 3 specs, you can see there's one thing that is constant. And that is the healing focus. This gives you 70% chance to avoid interruption caused by damage while casting any heal spell. So as a priest, you're going to get a lot of hunter pets sent on you. You're going to get rogues sent on you. You're going to get like it's mainly hunter pets that cause the pushback, and having that 70% chance to avoid interruption caused by damage is huge. Is so big. If you're trying to heal with a pet on you, and you don't have healing focus, it's going to be really difficult. I mean, I would honestly say that you should just go in and see for yourself without having healing focus spec'd. Like just go get a mob, like aggro a mob, and like just sort of heal yourself and see like, oh, how bad is it really? And then do that for a little while, and then go spec into this, and then go do that, pull that same mob, and then see how big of an improvement it is to have this healing focus. So it's in every single one of my specs, and I don't see how anyone would ever pass this up. Um, and then you also see for pretty much all the others, well, at least the 2 here, I got the 1 point in blackout, and so what this gives you is a chance to stun your target whenever you apply your Shadow Word Pain, or you cast a Mind Blast, um, which are really your only 2 shadow spells. And why this is big, and why I put this point here is because one of the things you're going to be doing as a priest is keeping non-crowd controlled targets, so like non people who aren't getting polyed, or people who aren't like being feared, because what good is a stun on top of a fear? There's really no point of it. But like pretty much anyone else, you want to keep them in target. You want to keep them from regening health and mana like out of combat. So what you do is you cast a rank 1 Shadow Word Pain on them. 1, to keep them in combat, and 2, to try and get this blackout to proc. You get the stun on them. I don't think I have to go into detail as to how good a stun is in PvP, but blackout's actually kind of big. So I did just want to show you that. And then we've got Unbreakable Will, 5 of 5, increases your chance to resist stun, fear, and silence effects by 15%. Um, so there aren't any silences at 19, so that's not a big consideration. But there are stuns and there are fears, and especially if you're something like an undead who's already got a lot of shadow resistance, um, just having that extra 15% resist or chance to resist a fear is really nice. Also, for Horde, resisting Hand of Justice is really nice, and for everyone in general, resisting a bomb stun is really nice. Now, I mean, I guess you could argue that wand specialization might be bigger than Unbreakable Will, and that's kind of just your personal preference between. Let's unlock this. That's just kind of your personal preference. And I'm not going to sit here and try and tell you that Unbreakable Will is better than wand specialization, because the wand that you get at 19 is massive. It's like a level 30, 35 wand in the hand of a 19. You add an extra 25% damage on top of it. It's insane. It's really insane. So it could very well be that you would rather have wand specialization here in this spec. Like, I could totally see you rocking this. However, if it were me, I would prefer. Is this locked? I prefer at least picking up one a little bit there. Just picking up a little bit, 3%. Um, but yeah, these two are comparable. Um, One specialization might be a little bit bigger, but the biggest thing in this spec that is unique to this one is martyrdom, and I would push you to go martyrdom. And what this is, it gives you 100% chance to gain focus casting effect, which lasts for 6 seconds after being the victim of a melee or ranged critical strike. The focus casting effect prevents you from losing casting time while taking damage and increases resistance to interrupts by 20%. This is so big because you're going to get crit. And that's precisely the time when you want to cast a heal, is when you get crit. So having complete pushback prevention after being the victim of a critical hit is so big. Um, just being able to, it's not quite clear casting because it still costs mana, but just being able to cast without being pushed back, um, it's just really big. So martyrdom, definitely take that into consideration. So yeah, that's everything from here. Now let's look at this other spec that I've made. And this is basically, we pick up an extra point into blackout just for you double your chance to stun. Um, and we go like a lot stronger into wands. And so you can kind of tell from just like these two sort of how I feel about pre-specs in general. Is I really like Unbreakable Will. I always want to get at least 1 point in Blackout just to have the chance for it to happen. I always get that healing focus. I'm a big fan of Martyrdom, but you can play without it if you wanted to get like more wand specialization. Even something like that you can do. Um, but like I said, the wand is so big, and having that extra damage is really nice. However, that's not really the main point of a priest. That's why with this spec, let's do this. I had it like this because wand specialization like is very nice, it's very useful, but it's really not like what you're doing as a priest. What you're doing as a priest is you're dispelling and you're healing. Like that's your main purpose as a priest. That's what people want you to do. If they want, if your team wants someone to do damage, they're going to bring a rogue in. They're not going to bring a priest in to go do damage. You know what I mean? So it is it is what it is. I remember I used to have fun on my priest where we had like it was me and two other guys and we all went one specialization. And we just went around bubbling, bubbling ourselves and like renewing each other and just wanding people down. And it was a lot of fun because like no one could stop us. Like like someone got polyed, we would just dispel each other and then we would just wand and they would just die. It was hilarious. So, um, yeah. Anyway, this is just kind of showing a variant without martyrdom. You get to pick up a lot more into wand. And then this third spec is if you're the type of player who you just want to focus on just doing like the big heals, the big raw heals, from the back, um, where we're still picking up that 1 point into Unbreakable Will, you could put it into Blackout if you would prefer Blackout, but it's kind of against the theory of the spec, which is, just like big raw heals. This is definitely like a healing spec you'd want to go with a troll with berserking. And what you see here is the Divine Fury reduces casting time of your smite, which you never ever ever cast smite, by the way. Never ever. You will always do more damage with a wand. Holy Fire, you don't have it. Heal, you do have, and Greater Heal, you don't have. So it's really just reduces casting time of your heal by zero point 0.4 seconds, which doesn't sound like too much, but it is nice. And if you couple that with berserking, you can take quite a bit of time off of your heal spell, and you can really pump out heals. And then improved renew increases the amount healed by your renew spell by 15%. This is your other option would be Holy Specialization, which increases the critical strength, your critical effect chance of holy spells by you could take it all the way up to 5%, but here it would be 3%. Um, Not that big. Like critting with the heal is nice, but it's really not that big. I don't know. It's up to you what you want to do. I personally think Renew is much bigger. I think you're going to end up doing a heck of a lot more healing with that 15% on a Renew because you're always throwing Renews out. Like if you're a good priest, you're always throwing Renews out to everybody. Um, you're even precasting, Renews sometimes. So it is just sort of like a all into healing, all into healing spec. So. Yeah, the only other consideration, I guess, that we haven't gone over, um, that I guess we could talk about real quick, the Silent Resolve reduced threat, no such thing in PvE or PvP, increases the effect of your power word, Fortitude, eh, nah, what is it? It's 8%, right? So 8 says that would be like 30%. What's 30% of 8? 2.4. I don't know if 24 health is really worth those 2 points. Really kind of doubt it. Improve power word shield. Increase the damage absorbed by 5% all the way up to 15%. Um, Nah, I just don't really see it. I think like the shields for like maybe 200 health, which would be like adds like another 30 or something. I mean, like that 15% to renew is going to end up being more than that, and it's a very expensive spell. You really don't want to use Power Word Shield. Like, if you're playing to your best ability, you're never casting it like during combat. You're only pre-casting it basically, um, because you shouldn't need it. Like if you can manage well, you shouldn't be using it. Um, Martyrdom is just so big. Um, Shield warding, reduce all spell damage taken. The thing is, at 19, the damage you take is like 80 to 90% physical. Spell damage is very, very minor, and so I wouldn't even bother with spell warding. Spirit tap. Okay, so this is kind of a consideration, but the thing is, you have to get the killing blow for this to be it. And as a priest, you really shouldn't be bothering with getting a killing blow on something. That shouldn't be like something that you're going after. Really, no one should be bothering with trying to get a killing blow, and especially not a priest. Although, like, the spirit sounds really, really nice, and it's great for leveling, and it's great for like a level 60 shadow priest, but at 19, it's just not the way to go. You would much rather put those points into blackout if you were going to put them anywhere. Um, Shadow focus, reduce your target's chance to resist your shadow spells. Again, that's not a big thing. That's really not that big. Like it's nice, but like it's not really the point of a priest. It doesn't really serve you. Increases the duration of shower word pain. Again, this seems like something for PvE, I guess, or like level 60 Shadow Priest type stuff, but it's again not really going to serve you at 19. What is this? And this is just reduces threat, so not a consideration. The only thing in the Shadow Tree that's worth is going to be Blackout. Um, but yeah, so this is kind of everything we've gone over here. Um, but yeah, you can see obviously the two biggest points for me is healing focus, and then I always like to get at least 1 point into blackout because there's really there's always sort of that 1 point oddball. So like this one would be that 1 point oddball could go there, um, but it just makes more sense with this type of spec to go into resist to stun and fear. Um, but yeah, I really like healing focus. I really like 1 or 2 points into blackout. Um, I'm a really big fan of martyrdom. If you want to pick that up, a really big fan of that. And I'm also a really big fan of wand specialization or unbreakable will. So just kind of like the three specs there. So anyways, I'll catch y'all later.